Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our parent panel tonight with the College of St. Benedict and St. John's University. I'm your MC, I guess, for the evening. My name is Tony Amos. I'm a Senior Associate Director of Admission with the College of St. Benedict and St. John's University. And this evening, we'll be bringing to you a couple of folks from Academic Affairs and Student Development, as well as a number of different parents of Johnnies and Bennies who are going to help by sharing some of their experiences and answer some of your questions as you're in this position now, either preparing for your son or daughter to enter into St. Ben's and St. John's, and others who are still not sure what your son or daughter is doing yet, still trying to make that decision. And so we want to help you in that path and in that process. This has actually been probably one of the more popular webinars that we've hosted, at least in the series of ones leading up to final decision day of May 1st. And so we've been bringing it back by popular demand, and a new crew of folks with us too, some that have been with us previously and others who are new to the panel, and so we welcome them. We're going to go ahead and do introductions here. I'm going to have each of our panelists introduce themselves, give a little background about themselves, and for the parents of students, a little bit about their student at St. Ben's and St. John's, and a little bit about their experience, so you can have some of that background. And we also did have questions that we know had come in advance that we looked at and will plan to share. But you can certainly post your questions this evening in the Q&A function. I know many of you on these webinars are used to probably posting some things in chat, but we'd actually ask that you post your questions in the Q&A section for a response, whether it be a response that should be written or a response that we can provide live. And so we'll do either depending on the situation there. So as opposed to using that chat function, but don't worry, if you end up using the chat function, we won't ignore you. We know they're all important. So with that, I'm gonna get some introductions on the way. And I think first I'll actually start with other admission folks who are here, starting with Tom.
Trying to make sure I was unmuted there. I'm multitasking in the background here. Hi, everybody. I'm up visiting my daughter in Boston, so you're looking at my hotel room. I'm Tom Voller-Berdan. I've worked in the admission office for 30 years, and I actually have a daughter in college now, finally, after all these years. So I know what it's like to be a prospective parent. Welcome, everybody. I'll be mostly working in the background. They usually don't like me to be seen too much, so I'll be answering questions in the background.
Yeah, and when I mentioned the chat function earlier, please still pay attention to the chat function, because we would be posting some good information on there as the evening goes on. As questions are asked and we're able to find some information quickly that we can link you to online, we will post that. Also joining us here from admissions is Eric Aschenbeck. Eric.
Hi, everyone. Eric Aschenbeck. Been working with Tom and Tony and other folks on the screen here for about 15 years, so happy you're all with us tonight.
And now I'd like to introduce our parent experts. They may not want to refer to themselves that way, but we are tonight. You have to be an expert, right? So why don't we start, Karen and Van, do you guys want to go?
Okay, so I'm Karen Chiswick, and I'm here with my husband, Van Doze, and our daughter graduated in 2021. And she was a double major in biochem and German, and she absolutely loved her experience at St. Ben's, and we were happy to be part of that, and we just wanted to be available to answer. We certainly remember being in your position as prospective parents. It was a lot, and we did a lot of visits, and so we just want to be available if you have any questions. That's Van. Oh.
Actually, I'm a professor at the School of Medicine, and I actually, as an undergrad, went to a large state institution, but I was very much for a liberal arts experience, and something actually my daughter exposed me to and everything. I took her down to St. Ben's 4 times to take a look at it, and I probably liked it as much or more than she did, with the I really liked the arboretum, and so, but being in what I've done, I've actually been on a lot of campuses through my career, and I really liked it. It was a really, really good fit for her. And even before we went, we looked at some of the programs they had, and she was very interested in the some of your overseas programs. Specifically, they went to Austria, and she got to do it right before COVID hit, and we got to visit her. Then COVID hit, and she's actually right now in Germany on a Fulbright. So this continues. She's really these experiences as an undergrad have really continued onward with her.
Thanks so much, Karen and Van, for being with us this evening. Jenny, how about we go with you next? Thank you.
Sure, thank you. My name is Jenny Meyer. I'm a local parent from St. Joe area. And so St. Ben, St. John's has always been a part of really who we are as people. We love being a part of the Benedictine communities. I'm on the parent panelists. I've joined the parent panel because I've actually have 3 students. Our oldest was a part of the class of 2018. He graduated St. John's with physics and then a computer science minor. We have a current second-year student at St. Ben's, leaning towards sociology with an art minor. And then our baby of the family is a current first year at St. John's, and he's looking at something business, accounting, or computer science. He's still looking around, but as much as all 3 of our kids have surprisingly ended up at St. Ben, St. John's campuses, their searches were very different. And maybe that's part of why I was asked to join the panel. I'm not sure, but that anxiety piece that comes with helping your child find the right fit for them, I get it. All of our kids are very different. And it just so happens St. Ben, St. John's has been a great fit for all of them in different ways.
Thanks so much, Jenny. Janelle.
Hi there. My name is Janelle Banner. We live in Western Minnesota in a small town. I have 4 sons that are either alums or current students at St. John's. Really started the journey through, at St. John's in 2013 with our oldest. He graduated with degrees in psychology and communications. He now works for Allianz Corporation. But one of the things that drew him initially to it was the small class sizes, the small campus feel, the Benedictine tradition certainly fit well with our faith and our just kind of who we are as people, having lived in small towns for both my husband and I grew up in small towns. And so doing that, that was really important. So it was a nice fit for our oldest. Our second son was drawn to St. John's, not only because of his brother's experience, but also because he wanted to play football. So Andrew is a 2020 grad, and he's now at the University of Minnesota Dental School. So St. John's prepared him beautifully to step into a program that not many young men in central Minnesota get to actually get the opportunity to join. So he's very blessed in that way. Our next son is a senior. He will take advantage of that COVID year. He also, just following his brothers, even though we told him we didn't need to, that wasn't necessary. He also, for many of the same reasons, found St. John's to be a good fit. So he's a senior, but he will be doing his capstone in the fall. And, don't let the NCAA hear it, but it's because he wants to play football for another semester. So he gets to do that, but he promised me that he will be studying for his LSATs during that time also. So he plans on going to law school. And then our 4th son is in his 2nd year, and he's a business major. He was actually originally planning on not going to St. John's because he didn't want to be where his brothers were. He didn't necessarily follow them. And he actually was accepted to the University of Minnesota, and just kind of out of the blue, standing over the sink, doing some dishes, said, yeah, I think I'm gonna go to St. John's. So, and for him, it's been a great journey. He is a business major and has also plays football, but has found even a different path. I would say one of the biggest, again, Benedictine tradition is huge. I went to a Benedictine college. huge in our family. It's a really big deal, and we feel like St. Ben's and St. John's together as, you know, two colleges, however we say that, two schools, one college, or whatever it is, that combination is just so beautiful that it has made a difference in my son's lives. It's made a difference in who they are as men, and that's a really big deal. I would also say that the other men that they have met by being there, and women from St. Ben's also, but specifically their brotherhood that they have met at St. John's has been second to none. The two oldest live together right now with two other Johnnies. They're in each other's weddings, the yearly trips down to Florida to watch their friend play football, and there's just something about that it just expands beyond the education, beyond the Abbey, beyond the buildings, beyond everything else. Is just the relationships that they've built. And you know, I would say as the boys get older, the relationships they develop with certain professors and certain staff on campus, well, again, both campuses, has been pretty amazing, pretty special for them.
Thanks so much, Janelle. I think really well said about the Benedictine piece, and we often like to refer to those Benedictine values as our secret sauce. I'd like to move to a couple other folks that are with us tonight that are going to help to answer some questions, and sometimes maybe can wear two different hats in the process. So why don't we start with you, Sharon?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sharon Wenner, and I am the Associate Director of Academic Advising. I am also a St. Ben's alum, and I've been in my role in advising now for 15 years. I'm also a parent of 3 St. Ben's and St. John's alums. My oldest is a 2016 grad, and he went on to dental school at the U of M as well, and is now a practicing dentist. My second child is a daughter, and she graduated in 2017. And went on to physical therapy school at Creighton and is now a physical therapist. And my youngest was a 2019 grad of St. John's and went on to in his master's at the U of M, Carlson School, and is now a financial advisor. So I have a role as advisor, alum, and parent, so I can answer all kind of questions. But my main role tonight is as an academic advisor, and our office handles all the registration for the incoming first year class. So we handle that this summer and answer any questions and help students get a really good fit for their first semester starting off in the fall. We have your student will have many other advising resources as well. They will be assigned a faculty advisor who in their first year may or may not be in their area of study, but then at the end of their first year for sure, they will get a faculty member in their major that will serve as their faculty advisor. In the first year, students are also required to take a course called College Success, and that instructor will also be a great resource in transitioning to college, adjusting, all those kind of things, as well as some advising, academic advising kind of pieces they can help direct to resources on campus. So that class meets once a week during their first fall semester. So it's a great kind of acclimation to St. Ben's and St. John's. And then also they have us. We are 6 general advisors in the academic advising office. We serve all students. So your student, if they can't get the answer from their other resources, can come and make an appointment with us, and we can answer questions, help with major exploration if your student is undecided on a major, for your planning, like I said earlier, registration issues in the first semester, but also any other semester, can help them if they want to take kind of summer courses or transfer coursework, want to transfer it back. Graduation requirements, we kind of know that integrations curriculum, which is our gen ed curriculum, kind of inside and out, so we can help answer questions on that. And also help students if they're experiencing academic difficulties. So can kind of come and talk to us about the best path forward, if they want to drop a class, kind of what that means, or any of that kind of stuff. If they're experiencing any academic difficulties, we kind of help them through that as well. So if you have any kind of academic questions or anything else, I'm happy to answer those. So welcome.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Sharon. And Jody.
All right, last but not least, My name's Jody Terhar, and I'm the Dean of Students at St. Ben's. I've been at the college for 25 years now, which is just absolutely astounding to me that it's been that long and that it's gone as fast as it has. Like others have shared here, I'm also the parent of college students. I have 2 who have completed that journey and are now doing other things, and another who is well on her way to finishing. So I think everybody here has perspectives to share. And I think one of the valuable things that those of us who work here who are parents is that we really do understand some of the challenges, the opportunities, and the many, many opportunities for celebrations with your student as they begin this really important and exciting and at times challenging part of their life. Sharon had mentioned the things that happen in support of the student's academic journey, and St. Ben's and St. John's do truly have an amazing academic experience for students with so many different paths that they can choose to make sure that they're really pursuing the things that make sense for them, that bring them joy, and really hopefully set them on a path to whatever their future is going to hold for them. In my work as the Dean of Students, I really focus on the experiences students are having outside the classroom and advocating for their needs and making sure that they have the support and knowledge of the various resources that are available to them. One of the really neat things that St. Ben's and St. John's do for our incoming first-year students is that we have an intentional first-year experience program that really is this holistic set of initiatives, interventions, programs, and opportunities that support a student through their first year. And those things are beginning already now as students are depositing, making their decision to come to St. Ben's, but as well as for those who haven't maybe yet decided. The first year experience program at St. Ben's, I just want to highlight some of the primary areas of that program. Webinars like this, we have some coming up that are directed specifically toward students. We have some summer orientation, summer on-campus experiences for our students coming up in June that will be really fun and exciting. There's an online course that students are able to take so that they can continue to prepare themselves for being here at St. Ben's and St. John's. Come fall, we have a great fall orientation program that is primarily led by students, peer mentors, who lead that program and make sure that our incoming new students are feeling confident and comfortable as they make their transition to St. Ben's and St. John's. The college success course that Sharon has mentioned is part of the first year experience and the really personal hands-on work that is done in that environment to help students build relationships and succeed academically. It also includes first year academic advising to help students during that time where they're exploring. I think almost every parent here kind of talked about their students maybe not yet knowing or taking some time to figure out what their plan is going to be. Academic advising helps with that during the first year. We also have a residential experience that's really core to and important to the residential or to the overall St. Ben's and St. John's experience. Our first year students, all of our students live on campus for the 4 years that they are students here. They live with each other in cohort groups. So first year students live together, sophomores live together, juniors and seniors live together. So we have a great opportunity to design programming, peer mentoring, and other types of experiences that truly meet the needs of students as they make their way through the 4 years of college. It goes from being a fairly hands-on experience to an experience that really leads to much, much greater independence and experiences about living life off campus more independently after graduation. We also have a number of intentional programs that are planned during a student's first year. One example that I might give you is our involvement fair, where students get to come and see and learn about all of the different student clubs and organizations so that they can identify ways that they might want to get involved and engaged. The other outside the classroom support services that are available to students, and I won't talk about all of them, but just want to highlight in case there's questions about them. Safety and security are very important. St. Ben's and St. John's have 24-hour safety and security, 365 days a year. We have an outstanding student wellness center that has offices on both campuses that provides a level of health care as well as personal counseling and other student-led health initiatives. We have an outstanding student activities office that is providing opportunities for students to get involved in the way that makes the most sense for them. And also importantly to the identity that we have as Benedictine institutions, both St. Ben's and St. John's have campus ministry programs who do work together, but also look at providing opportunities that are meaningful for young men as they're going through their identity development and identifying the values that are most important to them. And the same thing for the students at St. Ben's. So it's, I think one of the great things about St. Ben's and St. John's is it's kind of both and experiences that students have and have an opportunity to really grow and thrive in. So I'll be happy to answer questions that people may have, whether they're really pragmatic or more philosophical. I'll do my very best to help tonight.
Thanks, everyone. Again, please, if you have some questions that you'd like to post as you're thinking about them now, you can go ahead and do that in the Q&A section, the Q&A button. So feel free to use that. And we'll use the chat function to post some information along the way. We did have questions that came in ahead of time. So I will go to those. And I think actually the first one I would ask is actually going to go a little bit along the lines of what Sharon and Jody had just been talking about, and has, I think a bit to do with that transition piece. And Jody and Sharon were sharing how we're helping in the transition. But a great question came up from one of the parents ahead of time that asked, what are ways that I can best support my child as a parent during this transition? And I'd like to extend that to any of the parents on the panel. If you maybe have some wisdom, some thoughts on how to best help your child in that transition and making this decision and preparing for being at either St. Ben's or St. John's, or maybe elsewhere, but we're planning for St. Ben's and St. John's. Janelle, do you have a thought there?
Sure, I can go ahead and answer that from my perspective. I think it's going to be different between boys and girls. I have 4 boys and I have 1 girl. And there's going to be differences between the kid. And number one thing I always tell parents of kids who are just going to school is just listen to your kid and know your kid. Know your own child is as a parent, whether they're the type of kid that sometimes needs the space and you wait for them to come to you, or if you need to be the one to ask the question and kind of, how are things going, or tell me about your classes, or that kind of thing. So I think that's number one, is that no matter what any of the experts tell you, you know your kid. And so make sure that you are thinking about that first. The second thing that I would say is that I think that young people going from their senior year of high school to freshman year of college, they have a lot of ideas about what it's going to look like. That first week or their first couple of weeks, they have expectations and they have ideas. And sometimes those don't meet their expectations or their ideas. Maybe it's regards to finding a best friend, or being able to be involved in all the things, or classes being extremely easy, or classes being extremely hard. Whatever it is, I think there's certain expectations that they'll have, and I believe that it's best in the front to ask what are your expectations? What do you think is this first few weeks of college are going to look like? What are you hoping for them to look like? And then to follow up with that, because I think it's the expectations that make the transition the hardest. That if they're unmet for them, and even if as a parent you're kind of like, you thought what kind of thing, that in their mind it really makes sense. And so I think you need to have that conversation even before they go, and then have that conversation again a couple weeks in. It's communication is what it is. But again, you know your kid. How often is that supposed to be? I can't tell you, because each one of my kids is different. Every one of them is going to give, I have to jump in at different times. And it has to be, sometimes it's me and sometimes it's my husband.
Thanks, Janelle. Yeah, certainly really important, just to, everybody being a little bit different and how to handle things, and each kid being different. So really good information there. There's another question following up from that also dealt with transition, and that's really going more about the resources at St. Ben's and St. John's, and helping with the transition that would involve stress and anxiety. And particularly as you're making that leap from the high school culture to the college culture, academically, socially, so much going on there. Jody, I know each and Sharon, you each kind of mentioned some things at a time. I don't know if you'd like to expand on anything or highlight any one or two particular things, but also for parents on the panel, if you maybe had an experience with your child, what helped them at the school, the best in terms of, in utilizing certain resources, maybe what was most helpful for them. I'll just open that up. Thanks.
Sure. I can maybe jump in and talk just really briefly about the services that are available to students on campus, but I'd like to start by just saying stress and anxiety are probably the two most common words that students use to describe sometimes how they're feeling. And I don't know if it's a post-COVID thing or if it's just sort of where we are today with the pressures that students are facing. But you will likely hear from time to time that your student is feeling very stressed or feeling very anxious. And we do know that some of our students come to campus already dealing with those issues, perhaps already getting some help or taking medication to help manage those things so that they don't interfere with the other things that they want to do. I had shared earlier that St. Ben's and St. John's have a well-being center that provides both kind of basic medical care for students, strep throat, shots, vaccines, testing for different kinds of things, as well as counseling that's available for students. Every student at St. Ben's and St. John's does pay a health fee that allows them to use these services at mostly no additional cost. On the counseling side of things, students are able to meet with a therapist, with a counselor one-on-one to talk through the different issues that they have, and they can do that at no additional cost. It's 100% confidential. Is it exactly the same level and quality of service that you're able to receive off campus? The counselors we have on campus have their terminal degrees. They are highly qualified and have chosen to work on a college campus with this population of students. And many of our students utilize those services. In addition to the regularly scheduled appointments that a student might have, we also have a program called Walk-in Wednesday, where a student who may not want to make a full appointment, aren't quite sure what counseling is going to be, this is a more informal way to make a connection with that office, to talk with a counselor, and to determine whether or not another appointment might be good and helpful for them. The service is very much directed by the student. There's not any requirements, but it really is an amazing resource that's available to students on campus. And one of the things we want our students to do is become really good caretakers of their health and well-being. And that might be a transition that some of our students face. Perhaps you as a parent have been the one who's been making doctor's appointments and making sure they get to the dentist and to get in for their physicals and are taking their medicine as they should. One of the great things that you can do is start building that capacity in your student now and over the summer, so that when they arrive here, they're in a much better place to be their own best advocate. If our director of counseling was here, one of the things that he shares with parents is that we don't want our students to suffer long, and we don't want them to suffer alone. They just need to reach out, let people know that help is needed, and never, ever worry that they are the only one, because I can assure you, they are not the only one who may be experiencing difficulties, whatever they may be, homesickness, anxiety, or stress, or any number of other things.
Thanks so much, Jody. Go ahead.
Yep.
Thank
Jenny.
you. And
Go ahead,
thanks, Jody. As a parent, I just want to echo that everything that Jody has shared about the Wellbeing Center being accessible and being easy to access for students, I couldn't agree more. Our oldest son used their counseling services. Our younger two current students have used their, my daughter helped another student go in on a walk-in Wednesday, not quite sure how to handle the situation, and she advocated for her friend, let's do walk-in Wednesday, and she went with her. And our youngest son has been in for pulled hamstrings and sore throat and whatever, and it's only his first year. The things that are available to our kids as students at St. Ben's, St. John's, it really is an amazing setup, because if my kids are calling me or texting me with questions, I'm like, well, what resources do you have? Use your resources. And I guess I'll take this opportunity to share also, all three of our kids are dyslexic, dysgraphic, and our student accessibility center that St. John, St. Ben's has been amazing. It was the easiest transition for them to advocate for themselves. They went in and they met in advance with that office, and I'm not even completely familiar with all of the different tools they have offered to my kids, but it has been an easy, amazing transition for them to take advantage of those resources as well. And I think it would be a misstep not to touch on that tonight, because I think more often than not, people might be shy to ask about it, but the Student Accessibilities Office, St. Ben, St. John's, is phenomenal. I can't say enough about both of those resources.
Wonderful. Thanks, Jenny. You mentioned that, and I was going to mention that as well. Yeah, my biggest piece of advice is just encourage your student to speak up and to be an advocate and to talk to their professors. That's why hopefully they choose St. Ben's and St. John's. We have small class sizes. They'll get to know their professors, and your professors want to establish a relationship with the students and help them. And so, get to know them, ask questions, just, we don't know when maybe they're struggling. And so just use your voice, and there are so many resources on campus. And I'll, as a parent, I would just say also establish a good communication plan in advance before they start out, so that you can maybe touch base once a week, or like Janelle had said, know how often your child would want to meet with you, so that you're not stressed out when you don't hear from them, and they're not getting bugged that you're calling them all the time. And so that just is a transition. Just establish the communication plan before you get to campus.
Sharon, as long as you were chatting there, another one of the questions had popped in. I know that you already saw had to do with registration. So I thought maybe if you wanted to just, quick kind of let people know what to plan for when it comes to registering for classes, because I know some people are already thinking about that, and may have, either friends or families with other schools that might be starting that process, and don't want them to be feeling nervous or that they're behind in any way.
All right. No, your students are not behind at all. In fact, our forms portal form, which is the advising and registration form, will be live on March 1st. And so watch for that for your student. In the forms portal, there will be an advising and registration form that your student will fill out, and it'll give us a whole bunch of information about what they're planning to study, what they want to major in, what they've studied in high school, and other questions that we will need, and the advisors in our office will use to create a really good fall semester schedule for the student. So that form, it opens up on March 1st and it's due on May 15th. So you have quite a bit of time in there. So make sure your student fills out that form before May 15th, and then advisors in our office will be working to create schedules based on that information, and then they will be ready in mid-June for the students to be able to view. So if students then have questions, then they work with us to make any kind of adjustments or any of that kind of stuff. So we kind of do it behind the scenes to make sure that everyone gets a really good workable schedule, and then students can make adjustments as needed all the way up through the first week of class in the fall.
Thanks. And Jody, would you mind just kind of touching on the process for housing? And I know that that piece will be coming up, and people filling out information, and how we try to go about making sure that roommates are getting paired and getting placed,
Right.
in that process. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. So on the forms portal that Sharon referenced, there's also a housing registration form. And that is something that your student will want to complete as honestly as possible by May 15th. And then from May 15th until the summer programs are on campus, we'll be pairing people up based on their responses to that inventory, to that questionnaire that they're going to complete. In the many years that people have been doing housing, we kind of know what the matches and mismatches might be. And it's not about people who happen to share the same love for a particular color, but it really is about lifestyle issues. Am I an early morning person? Am I a late night person? Am I a quiet person? And am I not a quiet person? And we're not looking to make perfect matches with people, but compatible matches. It's not about living with your best friend or finding your best friend in that person. That may happen. And that's great if that may happen, but that's not the goal of those roommate pairings. It really is to find somebody that can share that space in a compatible way, so that each person can feel comfortable and settled in that space that's going to be their home away from home for a period of time. So if you can make sure that your student is getting those forms completed, we do ask that your student complete that form. And like I said, respond as honestly as possible. One of my children is a person who has a high tolerance for, I'll be kind and say, clutter, and can live in the midst of clutter quite comfortably. it's hard maybe for another person. So when he was doing his form, it's like, you'd really need to say that you are like on the messiest end of messy, because that's your honest response, and whoever you get paired with needs to understand that about you. So if you can help your student respond to that form as they are and not who it is they wish to be, that would be very, very helpful.
Thanks, Jody and Sharon. And now I just kind of want to turn that process conversation over to kind of more the experience in, kind of looking towards Karen and Van and Jenny and Janelle. What's your experiences like with your kids in that process of, choosing classes and, where they kind of turn to in trying to help, develop that, the choices they had within the curriculum and the plans that they were trying to make with the major, whether they knew it already or just trying to figure that out. And then also if you have, thoughts just on the residential piece too, and just, that experience and knowing how important that is to our culture and having a great experience and being in a residential community. So if you had any examples or some anecdotes to share on that would be wonderful.
I can talk. At the very beginning, we were really stressed about our daughter's schedule. Like, how are these advisors? How are they going to pick these classes? And what if she doesn't like them? And you know what? I mean, we were just amazed how it all worked out. But I would say our daughter had a lot of communication with her advisors, and it started with the pool that Sharon was talking about, and then her first year seminar advisor, and then as she got more up division, it was with her major advisors. But they really worked with her because she was somebody who wanted to do everything. And so my husband and I are both more in the science field, and so toward the end of her freshman year, she said, I think I want to look at poli-sci, and I'm going to derail my schedule for chemistry, and I'm going to take poli-sci. And we were like, oh, because you have a lot of classes. Biochemistry as I think the highest unit credit requirement, and one of them in the college. And so we were concerned about her really getting off track and how much extra time she'd have to be at school. And I will say, she took some things a little bit out of sequence, and the advisors and the faculty were absolutely amazing working with her. I mean, very patient, looked at different scenarios. She had to a couple of times get on a wait list to get into class. She never didn't get a class she needed. She always got the classes. And I just can't say enough about the faculty working with her, even beyond class schedules. That's probably another topic, but they were really fabulous. So no matter how worried we were at the beginning, and when she took her little detour, and she has incorporated that into her future, what she wants her future career to look like. She didn't end up changing to poli-sci, but she took classes enough and made contacts with those professors in that process. Even though she only took a few classes, she contacts them for help and assistance and advice even now. So it was a very positive experience.
I can say a couple things about both the classes and the roommates. It's been a while ago, right? But we're talking 10 years ago. I think to your point about the roommate situation, I think I may have filled out my oldest son's form. I think I might have. And in retrospect, how stupid was that? I mean, forgive me for if any parents that have already done that, but realizing that, that maybe wasn't such a good idea. Exactly to some of the things that you're talking about. Are you messy? Are you not messy? And that kind of thing. But in Evan's case, our oldest, he had the blessing of having the very first Muslim student to go to school at St. John's University as his freshman roommate. Abdi is he's an activist in the sense that he spent time bringing together when Tech High School had for lack of a better phrase, a riot during, I believe they were sophomores or juniors. He brought the two communities together. He was kind of a liaison there, and wrote some articles for the school paper and that. And my son is not that. He's none of those kind of things. And so the things that he learned because of his friendship with Abdi, are invaluable. And he would say that he now looks back on that and recognizes the benefits and the beauty of having that someone who wasn't exactly like him, who wasn't just into sports and all of that. My youngest son, he has been with his roommate now 2 years, same guy, because they're not best friends. They're good friends, but they have different friend groups. His roommate has a girlfriend. They're in different friend groups, but they know they live well together. And that has been really good for both of them because they just, personality wise, they needed to not be stressed about that. My second son ended up moving in with his best friend, guy that turned out to be his best friend. And our third son, it wasn't the guy that he lived with, but it was the guy 2 doors down that became his really good friend. So I would say that whole process, even though there's a little bit of some struggle at times, I think there's a lot of growth in it, no matter what. And as long as they continue to communicate with their FR on the floor, their RA on the floor, whomever, any of the resources that they have, I think that it becomes a really great experience, no matter what, however that all works out. As far as the educational piece and the getting classes, I also science background, so I was very I needed to know what with each of my kids. I've been like this. I wanted to know what classes are you going to take and what classes are you going to what's in the fall and what's in the spring. My husband's a little more like, it will be fine. They'll figure it out. It'll be fine. And so I think because of that, the boys have all sort of been enough of wanting to know for sure what they were getting into, but also a little more of it'll all work out. So I would say that I had absolutely zero complaints, and the boys had zero complaints about their freshman year fall semester. I think it gave them everything they needed for that first semester to kind of to get that jump start of getting to know other students. The first year seminar that they used to have, it's something different now, but a similar idea. All of those things help them get that little jump start. As you were saying, that as they got old, more involved in their major, and as year upon year, semester upon semester, they got to know the professors a little better. So for our oldest, it's why he ended up with a double major. He was talking to a professor who was like, "You're going to be done with this psychology degree." So he went to his advisor and they had a conversation, and hey, look, communications really might benefit you, and here's why, and had that whole discussion. Our second son, not only the biology major that he had, because he's for pre-dental, however it's written, the thing for him, and I think it's true of other majors on campus, is that there was a dental club that he was involved with. And the dental club actually is the thing that helped him to better understand what he needed to do, which classes he needed to take. He went on a mission trip to Nicaragua. I think it was Nicaragua, Guatemala, something like that. Anyway, but he wouldn't have really known about that except for being involved within these clubs and having these conversations with the professors and that kind of thing. Our third son, same kind of deal. He's psychology, talking to his professor. You're going to get through this. What are you interested in? Well, I want to go to law school. Well, maybe you should do a political science. It's really, there's just always been this conversation that's been so easy for them to access once they kind of got their feet under them and felt like, okay, I can do this. I can be the big boy and go and talk to people and go and talk to my professors and go and talk to my advisor, or as you were saying, any advisor really within the academic advising office. So I think it's been really quite smooth. Both my husband and I remember in college having those situations where, oh yeah, you can't get this class or you can't get that class, and you had to take it a different, kind of go a different way around, or take a summer class. My kids did not experience that at all, or have not. so far. I've not experienced that at all. So I think that's pretty unique to St. John's and St. Ben's.
And we had a couple questions that were in here in the Q&A, but I did want to make sure I got to a couple of other ones. We will definitely address them. Some have been actually answered. Thanks to our panel group here for jumping in and responding in writing. So if you saw the questions go away, just know you can see the answers in writing as well. And if you need some follow-up back and forth, we can provide that too. But another area that we were looking at, I think in the questions that came in ahead of time, one had to do kind of with balancing sports and academics. Another one actually referenced, having a job and making that work. And so I'm kind of creating one question out of both of those, which really has to do with just, balancing your activities, involvement, work, athletics, music, art, whatever your other passions are with the daily grind, so to speak. And maybe just thinking about any conversations you might have or have had with your son or daughter and in that process, and kind of knowing how they went about that. If you maybe touch on that, and knowing that it's definitely possible to kind of balance a few different things, that being in one particular program or major doesn't necessarily mean that you have to give up all sorts of other interests and opportunities.
Yes, I can speak to that a little bit. Our oldest son did have a job on campus. He worked in the student accessibilities office and was also involved with Ultimate Frisbee. I think he served as captain a couple years. And again, he had a major and a minor that he was pursuing. And then our daughter has a job off campus. She works at Jupiter Moon, which is right downtown St. Joe. If you've been there, it's a cute little ice cream shop. So it's easy for her to get to, walking distance from campus. And of course, security is also available to her if she ever needs a ride at closing. That is a service that security offers because it's so close. So there are off-campus jobs also in town. She also plays Ultimate Frisbee. All my kids play Ultimate Frisbee, but they've all done that balance. And our youngest son has a job on campus. He works at Brother Willie's Pub at St. John's and is playing Ultimate Frisbee. And he's on an intramural hockey team at St. John's, and he works a different job off campus during the break. So it's possible to juggle all kinds of things. And I've never known any student who wanted to make money during the school year that didn't find a way to make it happen. There's so much available on campus and in our little community that it's seemingly really simple to find something that works with whatever schedule and whatever extracurriculars you want to pursue.
And then go ahead, Janelle, sorry.
My boys have all said that they actually feel like they are more organized during season because they have to be. The practices, the weight training, the film sessions are all at certain times, and their classes are at certain times, and so they have to figure it out. And so they feel that they make better use of their time in season. My oldest, on the other hand, so he didn't make the basketball team his freshman year. His junior year, he became a student assistant. Junior and senior year, he was a student assistant for Pat. And he didn't travel unless he wanted to with them. And he told us, I believe it was probably in his junior year, he said, I don't think I could have handled the academics plus the athletics. And that was just him. And I think personality wise, I think that's probably pretty accurate for him. But he did, so again, student assistant, but he also coached over at the prep school freshman team, I think at the time. So to your point about being a lot of opportunities, really kind of here, there, and everywhere around campus. And I would say even, but again, know your kid, and they have to know that they have to keep their nose to the grindstone a little bit and be organized, but it's possible. Yeah.
That's one of the wonderful things about being Division III is that really the coaches and they know that they are students first and athletes. And so if students are struggling academically, they work with their team, the team, and they make sure that the students are finding a balance and helping them to achieve that. So it's kind of everyone's in it together. Coaches, the assistant coaches, all the people that are associated with the teams in athletics are really great about supporting their student athletes. So I think that's a great piece.
I think to your point also, I know that Gary, the head coach for the men's football team, they do grade checks, and he will, the kids talk about it, that yeah, so and so got called in and Gary said, so how are your grades? And they kind of have to, they do a little drop of the head, and then Gary just says, is this going to be a problem? Nope. Okay, get it done. And it's that simple. It's understood and it's that simple. And if things aren't going well, then they're not going to practice. They're in the study sessions or whatever it takes, that they're student first. It's student athlete at the Division III level.
And then and really kind of diving into the academic areas, and for the students that really are thirsting for more and wanting to really push themselves and take advantage of all the different opportunities that are there, and just be looking for some good examples about the ways that students were able to take advantage of that. And maybe Jordan and Sharon can certainly jump in too, just in general with some things that are out there. But knowing when you have opportunities, again looking at more of the what you can do in a smaller college, and still having that competitiveness, and but maybe not necessarily having to fight for the resources in a way that you might in a larger experience. And I know Karen or Van, if you guys have examples of that yourselves, and I would talk with Valerie, but anybody had examples on that, and love to hear that, because I know just we talk about the opportunities, of course, to be involved and engaged in a lot of different areas, but for the students that really are just so passionate about one particular program and really want to dive into it and get the most out of it, we're here for them too.
Well, in my role as a professor, and I do teach medical students, and each year in our class, medical school anyway, we'll have one, we might have two from or graduates of St. John's or St. Ben's. I'm based in North Dakota, not Minnesota. You'd have more over there. And several of the students, and some of them will have been from North Dakota. They went to St. like one of the male students had a few years ago. He went there to play basketball. And so he was pre-med, played basketball because he could do Division III. Division I, he said it wouldn't have worked out. Division III, and he went to med school subsequently. And then I know others that played volleyball, and so by being Division III, there is and the attitude, or I should say, towards it, for we'll see more student athletes. I want to say undergraduate programs, intermedical programs. They're coming from Division III in terms of having played varsity sports. And then there's a lot of intramural. Now there are other activities too. Our daughter talked about as a high school student, and did 11 to 13 different sports. She tried everything. But actually, when she went to college, she opted for piano and had a piano scholarship. And that was playing piano was her way of relaxing. And she stuck with it and took piano every semester. And so it's nice when you have a scholarship too on top of that to play piano. But I mean, that was her idea. And then she did the the intramural soccer and those kind of things. But she took it, so instead of that route, I'm going to say and then on the side ran into that kind of thing, and as for housing, which there is, I assume so that somehow she ended up in a room by herself, which in retrospect, I think she would like to have had and it's had to do with how she filled out her form. I don't know, but there may be students who still want to start out with a room and then actually she's actually become quite sociable, so that soon ended, and and then got in the housing where there's more than one roommate, et cetera, so but I don't know if that's still an option, and I'm not sure how she the form was filled out that it happened that way. May have been one of her interests or staying half the night, I don't know.
Yeah, each year of housing, you should note this is a little better too. I mean, they're all good, but it's a little nice little perk. As they go up, they get nicer and nicer accommodations. So that was, and after our daughter had her single, she met friends and then she knew people she wanted to live with. So that worked out really well.
Yeah, I can just jump in real quick that, there are a number of ways for students to get involved, from, intervarsity or intercollegiate athletics to club sports, to music, to almost anything that a student might desire. So there's social groups. We have a joint a programming board that students can be part of. There are other clubs and organizations that are more identity based. We have a Black Student Union, an archipelago club, an international student club. And then there are also a number of clubs that are affiliated with departments. So the education club, the nursing club, the business club. So those students get together and do things that kind of further along the interest that they have around a particular major. They're no club is limited to any particular type of student. They are all open to everybody. So it's a good chance for students to kind of, test the waters a little bit about things that they might be interested in joining. I think there are students, as your daughter did, even if they have a particular major, music is still really important to them. So piano or being in the orchestra or singing in the choir. A number of students who do that because, as you said, they do find it relaxing, or it's an important part of who they are that they want to make sure that they continue to nurture, even if music isn't the major that they end up with. There's also opportunity for students, if there's not a club that exists or an organization that exists that meets your needs, or you want to get something started, it's a very easy process to say, I'd like to get something started. We just recently approved a spoon ball club. I don't quite understand exactly what spoon ball is, but it's apparently a national sport. And a student came in and said, me and my friends really want to try to get this going. Here's our plan. Here's how we think it will work. And they were able to get that organization approved. We also just approved a baking club that's being advised by one of our faculty members in the nutrition department. And we also just approved a St. Ben's club soccer. So there's an opportunity for students who aren't playing varsity level soccer, but want to play club sport level soccer. So that really the opportunities, it sounds kind of hyperbole to say they're endless or limitless, but in some ways that's kind of true, because all a student has to do is to say, hey, I've been thinking about this, can you help me? And we say, yes, we would like to help you. Let's talk about what you're looking for and figure out how to make those connections happen.
Along those lines, our daughter was also active in a lot of other organizations, including things like climate change and et cetera. And as my spouse mentioned, her deviation into political science and everything, she actually followed that up with spending time in Washington, D.C. with programs sponsored by the university and other things. And her interest in, which I'm still trying to quite understand, the intersection between climate change and global health issues and pandemic and all those kind of things still play within her mind. And actually, even though it wasn't her major political science, she ended up, becoming a Truman Scholar. And it was this whole interplay with, I want to say science, with science policy. And then of course, a pandemic happening of all things, because that's what these models had predicted, these things we'd see an increase in. It was kind of, so the semester, I think she kind of deviated, but then she continued doing some more coursework, doing, political science things and more, poli-sci in DC as well. At the same time, in summers, doing research experiences at institutions like Johns Hopkins and other things like that. So I mean, you've got a lot of opportunities and a lot of ways these things kind of work together, even though you've got German, you've got biochemistry, you've got poli-sci, you got, and these organizations had a role in that, these other organizations, and then for relaxation, music. So.
the office that does summer experiences, that's another thing your student would really want to check out, because she utilized that office every summer. And they mentored her extensively, everything from all the opportunities, what would fit with her majors, and then looking at endless drafts of personal statements and that type of thing. And I mean, it is, and then there was funding. So if she got a, if she got a position one summer that they weren't going to pay her, really, I mean, to go to DC and have, I mean, it's really not doable unless you have some kind of funding for most people. And so she was able to, pay her living expenses out of the scholarship or fellowship, I guess they call it, that she got for that summer. And she did that every summer. So maybe except one. So that's a really big positive.
Very well. I know that we're kind of coming on our time here. We're actually maybe going a little over time here on answering some questions and things. And so don't know that we're getting to all of them. I do know that for a couple of questions, again, we're posting some responses in writing to some things in the Q&A. And I think some of the questions that we still we didn't get to quite all of them that were sent in ahead of time. But I do want to say maybe just, this could be almost be some kind of closing, part of some, closing comments here would be just in helping students in this process in general. I know as we're looking at some of the questions that came in earlier, one of them was, what was the most helpful thing you or your student did in high school to prepare for college? What would you say, to that, or is anything come to mind on that one? Are hard to remember.
It is a little bit hard to remember, but looking back, I think the college search, it was really different for each of our kids. But I think what was important in all of their decisions was to kind of let them lead the path. And you can bring them to all kinds of college visits, but if they're not ready to look at, whatever ABC campus, I mean, they have to be ready to be part of the process. So until they're engaged, until they help you make the list, until they have good questions of their own, I could drive my kids anywhere and the process is not productive. They need to be engaged and they need to figure out what's important to them. As a parent, it's kind of hard to stir that up in a student sometimes. It's different, the motivation for each one. They're also individual, but it's nothing that as a parent I could do for them. They had to figure it out. They had to fill out the forms. They had to request the visits. They needed to be engaged, or all of the effort was kind of pointless, in my opinion. If they're not engaged and not vested in having information on any location, it doesn't matter. And how do you stir that in a student? Well, it kind of goes back to what Janelle, mentioned earlier several times. Your kid, and they're either ready for the college search or they're not. But I would guess if for the families that are logged into this panel discussion, your kids are ready, and hopefully you've gotten some good information tonight, because it can be a little daunting to help lead any student to choosing a college. But I would say that was the most important thing, is we had to wait with each one of our kids until they were ready. And I can tell you, for our youngest, he really wasn't ready to look, and it was a long process to get that conversation started in this household. He knew he wanted college, but he was not ready to go looking, and he was not ready to apply all these different places. And then it got to be May 1st, and he finally needed to make a decision, and he was accepted at 4 different places, but he needed to have that deadline to go, oh my gosh, I better start looking at the right stuff. So finding that way to get them engaged was the right thing to wait with him, as hard as it was. Every path is different, every timeline is different, but to recognize that and make sure they're ready to make the decision themselves, I thought was important.
I would 100% agree with that. Everything you just said, I say a resounding amen to all of it. I would, as far as that, the kid thinking about it, I think one of the things we talk to all our kids about is what is most important to you? What is to you? Is it, you know, you hear about, well, here, I want to go look at a school in California. I want to go look at a school in, you know, in DC or whatever, you know, that they want all these ideas of the travel. What is really important to you? Where can you see yourself being for a full year? And then go from there, you know, and then let's talk about those colleges that you're looking at. Does that fulfill that need of yours? And then I think the other thing that we told each of our kids, right or wrong, we said, this doesn't have to be forever. This is a choice that you're making today. It's okay to change your mind. You get into your second semester, even the end of your first semester, it's okay to change your mind. They need to have that. I think there's this idea that they're so scared that they're making a decision that will cost them the rest of their life. It's not that. This is just one decision to make right now, and that's all.
Karen or Van, any additional advice or information or things that you think could definitely be helpful to share, or that you want to make sure is shared here before we would wrap up the presentation for the evening?
Well, our daughter actually visited quite a few places, all the way to the West Coast and all the way to the East Coast, and several Catholic institutions and small schools, large schools. It does come down to the child. Her graduating class was just 16. So it wasn't very big. But one of the things, you know, and it has come down to the child, what they decide. She wasn't impressed with the large classes at Notre Dame, which, you know, you get to set in. She wasn't impressed that they weren't necessarily taught by a faculty member. They could be taught by a graduate student thing, you know, and maybe it's because, you know, whereas, and she was interested in these other things, which I fit more with the liberal arts college. So actually these smaller class size, you know, kind of fit with her personality. And she wasn't wild, you know, like so much by the big names, you know, it's like, you know, this school, you know, so it kind of came. So, I mean, I think it's kind of up to each child will be different, and each, you know, and decide what I guess best fits for them. And in the end, this, you know, was, you know, and it worked out very, very, very well for her. And in some ways, it's like retrospect, it's like, well, it's a perfect fit, but who would have known? But she's visited a lot of places, and it wasn't, you know, and she got into a lot of places. That wasn't the issue. It was a matter of you know, kind of where she felt the most comfortable. And, you know, but she was going away to college. She wasn't, you know, going down the street to the nearest college, which is actually what I did. I just was about a mile away from where it's an undergrad, and then branched out. So, you know, you know, I don't know, Karen, you might have more to say along those lines.
No, I was just gonna, what you said, I mean, it's really about fit. Because you know, our daughter had, and as she narrowed it down, I mean, I went to a Catholic university in California and frankly assumed she would go there. So, but then, you know, one of the issues with that was travel. And she said, I don't want to spend, you know, I want to do things on my breaks. And if I never, you know, if I never see you guys except on my break, then I mean, so that was one of the factors. And like Van said, the class size and just the vibe of the school. I mean, she really, you know, wasn't hugely into football. I mean, she went to games. She definitely went to games at St. John's and everything, St. Ben's, but that wasn't a main thing for her. So it was an interesting process, but it really is about the fit. And for her, class visits was very important. She went to class visits at every school we could make that work at. So like Van said, he took her down there about 4 times. I thought he was really pushing his luck, because he just, but thankfully she really wanted to go there. So yeah.
Sharon or Jody, anything from your end that maybe you want to make sure that we impress upon our folks here as we're wrapping up?
Go ahead, Sharon.
I just, you know, encourage you, you know, as your senior, to really empower your student to have a voice and to have an active role in the choice process, but also in the forms that they're filling out, and in this whole process in transitioning to college. It will make it much easier once they are transitioned to college to have their own voice and to ask for help and to be an advocate for themselves. So I really encourage you as parents to really encourage your student to do to do that for themselves and to just enjoy their senior year, because boy, it's going to go quick, and we would love to have you at St. Ben's. There's so many resources here that can help your student, and just they care about students, and we want them to all to graduate, and we want to get to know them, and just know that we would welcome your student with open arms.
I think what I would share is working with students in the way that I do every single day in my job. Parents and families and their supporters are incredibly important to them. They're the first people to call when there's a problem. They're the first people they want to call when something has gone well. They truly value your opinion, even if they don't agree with it, and even if they roll your eyes while you're trying to share advice with them. You are such an important part of their support system, but it changes. And the best gift I think that you can give your student in the way that parents have talked here is to help them see what they're capable of. It's really tempting as a parent to want to kind of step in and do for them because you see them not doing what you know they could do and you want them to do it. Build their capacity to see in themselves what they're capable of so that you can celebrate the achievement, celebrate their sense of who they are when they take responsibility, and be with them when things don't go well, so that they can put those experiences into perspective and see the valuable lessons that come, not just from the successes that they'll have, but sometimes the challenges and failures that they're going to encounter. You will continue to be and always will be a very important part of their support system.
Thanks, everyone. And I want to make sure Eric and Tom don't feel silenced in this process here, but
my wife and I have 6 kids at home. Our oldest is a sophomore right now, so believe me, as it's very refreshing and helpful for me, it's kind of sitting and hearing the other side of the conversation as opposed to just leading the one that I always do. So I don't feel slighted at all. It's just been extremely helpful for me as well. So thanks, everyone.
Yeah, and I would just add that I to this day, 30 years later, I'm giddy about college coming to the seniors finishing up and getting off to college, and so I really love this panel and being a part of it, being able to listen in at least. Thanks, Tony.
And thanks so much for joining us this evening. Thanks to our panelists and your contributions. I did post a link to upcoming webinars, as we have some others that you can join in on, some different kinds of conversations with some presentations and opportunities to connect with current students and faculty and other staff as well. So we'll try to present as many different opportunities. Not going to prevent, we're going to present as many different opportunities as possible, because this conversation continues. This is all part of the journey. We're here to walk with you in that journey and help in any way that we can. Also want to promote our accepted student days that are going to be coming up, and one particular person on this panel, Eric, who is really has a big hand in that. So let's make sure those are wildly successful. But we have one come up here on February 20th, and again on March 17th, and then a third one in April. Why is the date escaping me, Eric?
March 31st.
Or no, March 31st. Pardon me. No, not April. Yes, so March 17th and March 31st. So
yep.
Thank you. That's I knew I could count on
That's
you.
why I'm here.
So please take advantage of that, because that's an opportunity to come in person, connect with different folks on campus. If you're looking for those classroom visits, Karen and Van, you mentioned that, with Valerie and the importance of that, meeting with coaches, meeting with folks in art, music, and theater, and just, making those connections that you need to make. Sit down with Sharon, sit down with Jody or folks from their departments, to really, get a better understanding of where things sit and how we can be that fit. And I will finish with the way I always like to finish, which is you have to remember that in this process, college is not a prize to be won, it's a match to be made. So let's help you make that match. Have a great evening, everyone. We look forward to continue talking with you in the future.